I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it did look like a yawn, that one, as we see Hikaru Nakamura enter the fray, and essential for him this next match, the All-American Clash, he needs to win. He will play Lazovic in the last round tomorrow, but no guarantees there either.
Yeah, one guy who won't be yawning but will be roaring is Hikaru Nakamura right now. It really does come down to this, and it's not an easy matchup for him. It's not an easy pairing, as he does take on the world number 2 and the very in-form Fabiano Caruana. And look at that, Hikaru still shaking his head. He needs to leave behind what has just happened, and that is often the most difficult thing to do for a player, but he needs to focus only on the next move when we are going to be underway in just a few seconds. And there we go.
It's the handshake off Fabiano. Opens with his king's pawn. Nakamura, he's been playing the Sicilian loyally in recent times, and Fabiano does not copy up to strategy from earlier today. It's the Rossolimo Sicilian. White brings the bishop out. More strategic nature to these positions, to this early stage. And Robert, do you think Nakamura is just going to be setting up shop, trying to hold the first game, strike with white, or how does he even approach this one?
I think he is taking this calmer approach because of his emotions going wild. And that was a roller coaster match against Nadir Backup to start winning with black, losing with white in a position that looked like it was close to being a draw, and then losing in the Armageddon when, speaking of close to a draw, the endgame, it objectively was holdable, but without time on the clock, he was unable to do so. This takes me back to my childhood, to Fabiano's childhood. We had the same coach growing up, Grandmaster Miran Sher, and he taught us both these lines. So for Fabi, I think that he's in familiar territory, something that goes decades back.
What were you taught to play in this position, Robert?
Well, it's a moment for Fabi because he moved his rook to e1, so he can't slide his bishop back to a number of squares. Some people slide it back to the d3 square, which looks odd because you're in front of that pawn and you're stopping your own development, but you're going to slowly unravel. You can drop all the way back next to your king, or you can in fact take this knight on c6 and then strike in the center with the d4. So all of these are viable. Growing up, I actually was told to play different lines because my coach, he was saying, like, you know, it's okay as long as you have your foundation set, you can then choose what to do next, choose your own adventure. But Fabi, he's really investing quite a bit of time here.
Yeah, and Hikaru off to a fast start in this game. To me, it feels like he's provoking slightly. He's saying, okay, take my knight, please. Yes, you're ahead in development. Yes, white will open up the center, but at least then he would have the bishop pair. Fabi just choosing his adventure this time. Pausing is a stylistic choice. That's where these top players tend to invest the most time. When it's tactics, they see it so quickly, so sharply.
giving checks now. You put your check on c5, he does it. If the king moves back to d2, give another check from b4, he does it. King goes back. Now if he pushes the pawn, your idea of the rook sliding behind the king, giving a check, immediately pick up the d2 pawn, that would end the game on the spot.
And that's maybe what Hikaru should do right now, because if he keeps playing on, White has this advanced g-pawn of his own. It's not that far away from promoting, so Hikaru needs to be careful. He's down under a minute himself. I think he should just take the draw, get white pieces in game 2.
It reminds me of that one draw that he did not take against Wesley Saw in game 1, where he could have repeated the position, bailed out immediately. He played for more and it backfired. If Hikaru plays d2, it is a draw on the spot. He pushes the pawn, a check by Fabiano Caruana, give up the rook, and I think he's going to go for it, because I also don't see an alternative here, David.
Yeah, it would be a logical conclusion to this game, the draw here. Push a pawn, white gives up the rook for that d-pawn and a bishop, and you can see he's coming to terms with it himself. He knows there's no realistic way of kind of pushing this game further. He's reaching for his bishop. Second time we've seen this position, he could just repeat as well, give a couple of checks, and a draw imminent any second now. There we see it, Nakamura, under 10 seconds, he needs to take the draw, bank it, and move on to the next one.
Does it. And he repeats. Oh, he doesn't!
Wow, that is brave. Bishop d6. He's allowing the white pawn to push.
Wow, and Hikaru also had that expression that he's just resigning himself to the draw. What is happening here?
Do you see his face though after the pawn push? He's like, what is happening? What am I doing? When he's getting in time trouble, he hasn't been his usual self. And look at him, he's trying to bounce back. He's trying to dance to whatever music's in his head. But that g-pawn is very dangerous. And if you play bishop e5 check, that rook can sacrifice.
He's pushing his own pawn, and now we will see this draw that we've been talking about as play fizzles out. He still has to be slightly careful.
He played that move with 2 seconds and a head shake. Can white actually just push the g7 pawn?
He can, but he'll put his bishop back with check, and that's why the king goes over here. Now rook takes d2 will be a draw. It is a draw indeed.
And finally it does happen, and Hikaru relieved after that draw. He tried for more, but Fabiano just keeps it all under hold. And Hikaru seems to not be able to believe what's happening in his game right now. How these chances are slipping, and he's got to be relieved that in the end there was a draw.